Hello and welcome back. This week, instead of another happy family story, we're going to be looking at a World War II book. Here we are, Ruby in the Ruins. So the author and illustrator is Shirley Hughes, who's been making the most beautiful children's books her whole life. She's now in her 90s, like Judith Kerr, who wrote the Mog books, who died recently. But Shirley Hughes is still going strong, and she's one of our best children's wartime illustrators. And the quote here, "War is over and Ruby's dad is coming home." Cover. Oh, here's a new word. An evocative depiction of family life in post-war London by one of the world's best-loved illustrators. Wow, not just Britain's, the world. That's quite a claim. But yeah, here you can see Ruby climbing on some kind of ruins. Evocative, we might come back to. It means it kind of evokes feelings in you. It's quite powerful atmosphere it creates, and depiction is sort of like a description, so like a powerful description of family life. Inside the back flap of the jacket, the dust jacket this is called, this cover thing is the dust jacket, it says about the author that she has illustrated more than 200 children's books and is one of the best loved writers for children, so illustrating and writing. And she's won the Kate Greenaway Medal twice, and OBE is CBE for her distinguished service to children's literature. Marvellous. And then I think in the front dust jacket it says it's a classic. Yeah, Ruby and Mum have endured the terrifying London Blitz, which has left many of the nearby buildings in ruins. Now they're waiting for Dad to finally come home from the war. Ruby hardly recognises the tall man who steps off the train, but when she falls in the ruins nearby, this is so many spoilers. I'm not going to read any more of this. Too many spoilers. This classic picture book by award-winning Shirley Hughes gives readers a glimpse into life as a child in post-war London. Post means afterwards, post-war, after-war London, but actually it also gives you an insight into wartime London. And just look at the inside of this. You can see so many images of propaganda. I know Year 4 have been looking at wartime propaganda. Take it from me, rubber soles and heels double the life of your shoes. So that's about mending your shoes instead of throwing them away. Recipes for 26 different kinds of sandwiches made entirely without butter. Why do you think they would have been making sandwiches without butter? Yep, because butter was rationed, so they were using margarine. If you see the Lion and the Unicorn video, that talks about Marge. Keep up the paper chase. So this is about recycling, but not putting it in the green bin in the corner of the classroom. This is a different kind. Waste paper is a vital necessity, that means really important, for supplying munitions, isn't that weapons, for our worldwide battlefronts. Every home can help to keep up the supply. Gosh, so you can give your waste paper somewhere and they make it into weapons? Make last year's clothes last year's. Boom, nice wordplay. Wartime cookery, save for fuel and food value. Your ration book, issued to safeguard your food supply. Johnson, oh this looks like an advert. In case of an air raid, go into your shelter and stay there. Take gas mask with you also. Shelter beds are just what you need. So we've got the prices for single and double beds. Gosh, that's not something I'd considered. Air raid wardens wanted. And then we've got the date, 2018, quite recent. Oh, that looks like a newspaper headline. 1945, World War II was over. The fighting had ended and peace had come at last. Bombs no longer fell on London, but many houses on the streets near where Ruby and her mum lived were in ruins with blackened, burnt out roofs. Can you see some of these? Presumably the roofs are blackened from the fires that have happened there. Behind the fence. Danger, keep out. Men were already at work there, clearing up the rubble. So you know rubble is all the great pile of stones and bits of cement and bricks all jumbled up together in a big heap on the ground. Rubble. Ruby's dad was a soldier, still serving far away abroad. I don't know if you know this, that even when the war finished in 1945, it didn't mean everyone came straight home. Loads of soldiers, and my grandfather was a doctor in the war, had to stay away for months and even years after that, helping bases get organised, finishing off business, peacekeeping. So it wasn't like they were all magically home the week after that peace was declared. Many of their neighbours had been evacuated to live safely in the country during the Blitz, but Mum had refused to budge. "We must be here for Dad in case he gets leave. That's holiday," she said. "I'm not having him come home unexpectedly to find an empty house." Ruby had been sent away to a safe area with the other children from her school, but in the end she was so homesick that she had come home to Mum. Every night when the warning sirens wailed and searchlights swept the sky, they had awaited the menacing drone of approaching enemy bombs. Watching the night sea. Menacing means really scary and frightening and kind of threatening. Then came the terrifying explosions, some quite nearby, making their little terrace house shake. Terrace house means they're all joined together in a row. Mum hated going down to the cold, crowded, smelly air raid shelter, so night after night she and Ruby clung together in the big double bed, blocking their ears and praying for the all clear to sound at dawn. You know, that was the siren. Instead of the whoa, it was the "it's all over for now" siren, the all clear, you're safe to come out. The sky is all clear of enemy bombing planes. Look, you can see, do you remember what these are in these little boxes here? Gosh, if it's all been that terrifying and awful, no wonder everyone's really celebrating when it's over. At last, the joyful day of victory, do you see there the V for victory on the wall, arrived. Union Jacks flew everywhere. Red, white and blue decorating. Look, even the little dog has got a red, white and blue rosette. All the neighbours who were still in residence, means still living there, pooled, that's shared, their rations to have a glorious street party. The children sat at long tables and tucked in, that means ate, to the delicious sandwiches, cake and even chocolate biscuits. Why does it say even chocolate biscuits? Do you think that that's because it's been really unusual, that's extra special? Maybe they wouldn't have had the sugar or chocolate rations for chocolate biscuits before. Look, lots of men in uniform. Presumably these are the boyfriends and husbands who have made it home. Len Parker's dad was the first to come home. The whole street turned out to greet him. Then Jimmy Nolan's dad, who was a sailor, turned up on an extended leave. So that means an extra long holiday. That's lovely for them. But what about Ruby? But Ruby and Mum had to wait a long time until at last the great day arrived when they set out to the station to meet Dad. It was very crowded. This is kind of the opposite to all those pictures that you saw at the beginning of the war of crowded train stations of lots of children being evacuated, often those big trains to the countryside. And now, instead of being places of parting, the stations are places of joyful reuniting, of happily getting back together again. Ruby hardly recognised the big sunburned man who got off the train with all the other soldiers, shouldering his heavy kit bag and waving to them. So her dad feels a bit like a stranger after all this time apart. How's she going to react? Mum ran forward and flung herself into his arms. Ruby hung back, feeling very shy. She did not know what to say when he stooped down to kiss her. From then on, everything at home changed. Ruby had to move into the little bedroom in the attic. Do you remember she was sharing the bed with her mum before? Back when they were listening to the bombs falling. Do you remember? And they were clinging together there. But now the dad's home. He's going to want to share the double bed with the mum. Mum promised they would redecorate it as soon as they could, but at the moment it was very drafty and shabby. You can see the big crack in the wall there. Shabby means scruffy. Ooh, mice. Ooh. A lot of plaster had fallen off the ceiling during the Blitz, and once or twice Ruby thought she heard a mouse scuttle across the floor. Yeah, I can see why she doesn't think that's a very inviting bedroom. But if their house is small, I guess there's no choice. Look, she'd have used that to do her washing in the morning instead of going to the outdoor privy in the garden, the outdoor toilet. Dad had been promised his old job back, although he had not yet started work. Ruby had forgotten how very big he was and what a lot of space he took up sitting about in their little kitchen. It must be a weird time of adjusting. I'm sure they've been looking forward so much to him coming home, but now he is home, it just feels awkward and weird. Sometimes Ruby and her friends would talk about their dads. My dad goes out a lot, Len Parker told her. He wants to meet up with his old army buddies and talk about the war and stuff. So, reading between the lines, inferring, do you think that Len Parker's dad is finding it easy to slot back into family life again? See, he just wants to go out of the family and talk to his old friends because it's just such a big change, such a big adjustment. So does mine, said Jimmy. Len and I like to go exploring sometimes. You can come with us if you like. I'm not sure my mum will let me, said Ruby. In the end, she pleaded so hard that Mum gave in. Well, all right, love, she said. Just so long as you don't go far away. Stay around the neighbourhood and take care. I love the freedom they had in those days to just roam and not have to worry so much about cars and crossing the road and strangers. What Mum didn't know was that Jimmy and Len loved playing on bomb sites. These were supposed to be fenced off, but it was easy to find a way through the wire. That does look tempting and exciting as a place to explore. Danger, keep out, by order of the Ministry of Defence. Looks like they're not taking any notice of that sign. What can there be to play on in a big pile of rubble on a bomb site? These forbidden places were full of rubble and fallen beams and flights of stairs leading to nowhere. Would you be the kind of person to go exploring in there? Or would you keep safely out? The children loved this wonderful playground. Len and Jimmy climbed all over the wreckage like mountain goats, not caring how very dangerous it was. Mountain goats are meant to have very good sense of balance. They're very sure-footed. Ruby soon became as adventurous as they were. She slid over piles of rubble, seesawed on fallen rafters, and stood on tiptoe on half-destroyed walls to view the ruins all around. But one day, when they were playing there, a very bad thing happened. Ruby made an extra big jump across a fallen rafter, missed her footing, and fell. Jimmy and Len stopped playing at once, good friends, and ran to help her. Ruby's knee was badly grazed and she did not want to get up. She started to cry. You'd better run back to her house and fetch her mum, said Len. Quick as you can, Jimmy. I'll stay here with her. Ruby lay there for what seemed like hours. Len tried to cheer her up, but she just closed her eyes. Then she felt a pair of strong arms around her. Not Mum's arms, not Jimmy or Len's arms. It was her dad. Don't worry, love. We'll have you out of here in no time, he said. Aww. When they got home, Dad bathed her leg and put a bandage on it. Ruby managed not to cry. Afterwards, she sat beside him on the sofa, eating a biscuit. He wasn't a bit cross about her playing in the rubble. "You're an adventurous one," he said. "And so are those two lads, Jimmy and Len." A couple of troopers. So troopers, he kind of means like they're sort of trustworthy and strong and sturdy, good friends. "I should give those bomb sites a miss and play in the park from now on if I were you." "Oh, Dad, I'm so glad you're back," was all Ruby could say. And for the first time since he had come home, she put her arms around his neck and kissed him. Oh, I hope you agree that that's a very satisfying ending. Okay, it's quiz time. I explained the new words as we were going along today. So let's have 1 to 5 on your piece of paper and see how much you can remember and recall. Right, question number 1. At their street party, can you remember what food they ate? Remember when they're all sitting there with the red, white and blue, with all the flags, what special food did they eat? Question 2. Where did they sleep? Where did Ruby and her mum sleep during the air raids? She hadn't been evacuated. She was still in London. Where did they sleep? Question 3 is, where did they go to meet her dad when he was coming home from the war? Where did they go and meet him? Right. Question 4. Why did Ruby hang back? So the mum flung herself into the dad's arms. Why did Ruby hang back and not go and hug her dad straight away? That's more of an inference question, and it needs maybe a sentence or two just explaining what you think. And question 5. What was it about Ruby's dad that made her change her mind and want to hug him? There were kind of 2 things he did that made her suddenly feel warm towards him and that she wanted to hug him after all. So what were those 2 things that he did? Much harder question. Right, pause the video if you need more time. The answers. Now, question 1 was the food. Do you remember at the party they had delicious sandwiches? What if they were made with butter? Cake and chocolate biscuits. Okay, so did you put any of those down? Extra well done if you put chocolate biscuits, because that was the treat. Question 2, where did Ruby and her mum sleep? Do you remember they didn't go down to the air raid shelter? They stayed in their room and she slept in her mum's bed in the house there. They didn't go down to I think it was a shared air raid shelter, not just in their own garden, because it says crowded, smelly air raid shelter. So maybe there's just one for the whole street, and it probably had like an inch of mud on the floor and puddles. Right, where did they go to welcome her dad home? It was the railway station. It says station. Although you can see porters carrying the stuff on a trolley, but in the picture there wasn't actually a train anywhere, interestingly. Do you think it was platform 9 3/4? Question 4. Why did Ruby hang back when her mum was flinging herself into the dad's arms? What did you put? I put something like, it says here, feeling very shy, and it says she didn't know what to say. So I guess if you wrote anything like feeling shy or awkward because her dad's like a stranger to her, she hasn't seen him for so long, then you get your point. And the last question, what made Ruby change her mind and want to hug her dad? Do you remember I said it? I thought it was 2 things. 1 was when he came all the way to the bomb site, the Rubble, to rescue her. She felt a pair of strong arms around her, and he came all that way through the fence and over all the rubble to pick her up and carry her home. So that was one part. And then I think the other part was he didn't tell her off. He wasn't all angry. It said he wasn't a bit cross. Where does it say that? There we are. He wasn't a bit cross about her playing in the rubble. So he's not giving her a big telling off. And I think she's really pleased and grateful that he kind of understands her. He knows that she wants to be adventurous and have fun and play with her friends. And so I think she's grateful that he rescues her and grateful that she doesn't get a big telling off. And that's why she suddenly feels all warm towards him. I really hope you enjoyed Ruby in the Ruins and have a good week. Take care. Bye.